Welcome back to The Last Boot, the channel where football is more than a game. It is passion. It is pain. It is glory. It is heartbreak. We tell the stories behind the moments that shook the world. The tears. The triumphs. The players who gave everything. And the ones who lost it all. I am so glad you are here today. If you are new here, please subscribe and join the Last Boot family. We are growing every single day and I do not want you to miss a single story. Today we are talking about a boy born in the poorest neighborhood of Mozambique who became the greatest African footballer of his generation. A man who carried Portugal on his back at the 1966 World Cup and came within one match of winning it all. This is the story of Eusébio, the Black Panther. Let us find out. There are players who score goals. And then there are players who score goals that make time stand still. Goals that make everyone in the stadium forget to breathe. Goals that people describe to their grandchildren decades later as if they happened yesterday. Eusébio da Silva Ferreira was the second kind of player. Always and completely the second kind. He was born on the 25th of January 1942 in Lourenço Marque in Mozambique, which was at that time a Portuguese colony. His neighborhood was called Mafalala. It was one of the poorest areas of the city. Dirt roads. Tin-roofed houses. Children playing barefoot in the dust. It was a place where dreams were supposed to die before they even began. But Eusébio did not get that message. From the moment he could walk he was kicking a ball. Any ball. A real one when he could find it. A bundle of rags tied together when he could not. He played in the streets of Mafalala with a hunger and a ferocity that made everyone who saw him stop and stare. There was something different about this boy. Something that went beyond normal talent. Something almost frightening in its intensity. He was fast. Breathtakingly fast. He had a right foot that hit the ball with a power that seemed impossible for someone his size. And he had a football intelligence that could not be taught. He saw things on a pitch that other players simply could not see. He knew where the ball was going before it got there. He knew where the space was before it opened up. He played the game 3 seconds ahead of everyone else. Word reached Benfica Football Club in Lisbon, one of the biggest clubs in Europe. They sent scouts to watch this teenage boy from the streets of Mozambique. And what those scouts saw made them move immediately. They signed Eusébio and brought him to Lisbon. He was still a teenager. Still a boy from Mafalala. Now playing in one of the great stadiums of European football. He adapted instantly. As if he had been born for exactly this stage. He scored on his debut. He kept scoring. And scoring. And scoring. At Benfica he became a legend so quickly and so completely that the club built their entire identity around him. He won the European Cup. He won league titles. He scored goals that people still watch today with their mouths open in disbelief. But it was the 1966 World Cup in England that gave Eusébio his greatest stage. And he filled it completely. Portugal had never been a major force in world football. They arrived at that tournament as outsiders. Nobody gave them a serious chance. And then Eusébio took over. He finished as the tournament's top scorer with 9 goals. 9 goals in one World Cup. A record that stood for decades. He scored with power. He scored with precision. He scored with his left foot and his right. He scored from impossible angles. He scored from the penalty spot with a calmness that made goalkeepers look foolish. Every time Portugal needed a goal, Eusébio found one. As if scoring was simply a problem he was born to solve. There is one match from that tournament that people still talk about with complete disbelief. Portugal against North Korea in the quarter-finals. North Korea had been the shock of the tournament. They had beaten Italy and were one of the stories of the competition. And when they went 3-0 up against Portugal within 25 minutes, the world thought they were witnessing the greatest upset in World Cup history. Then Eusébio happened. He scored 4 goals. 4 goals in one match to turn a 3-0 deficit into a 5-3 victory. He was absolutely unstoppable that day. Every time he received the ball, the North Korean defenders looked at each other with an expression of pure helplessness. There was nothing they could do. There was nothing anyone could do when Eusébio was in that kind of form. Portugal reached the semi-finals. And there they faced England. The hosts. The eventual champions. And Bobby Charlton. One of the greatest players of his generation. England won 2-1. And Portugal's dream was over. When the final whistle blew, Eusébio walked off the pitch in tears. Real tears. Streaming down his face in front of the whole world. He had given everything. Every ounce of his talent and his passion and his hunger. And it had not been enough. He sat in the tunnel afterwards with his head in his hands and wept like a child. Those tears became one of the iconic images of that World Cup. Because they were completely real. There was no performance in them. No calculation. Just a man who had wanted something with every fibre of his being and had come so heartbreakingly close. Portugal finished third. And Eusébio went home with the Golden Boot as the tournament's top scorer. A small consolation for a man who had deserved so much more. He continued playing for Benfica for years after that. Continuing to score extraordinary goals. Continuing to fill stadiums. Continuing to make people fall in love with football all over again every time he played. He retired as one of the greatest players Europe had ever produced. The first truly great African footballer on the world stage. A man who had shown that talent born in the poorest streets of Mozambique could stand alongside anyone in the world and be better than almost all of them. On the 5th of January 2014, Eusébio passed away from heart failure in Lisbon. He was 71 years old. Portugal declared 3 days of national mourning. The flags flew at half-mast. Football clubs across the world paid tribute. And in Mafalala in Mozambique, the people who still remembered the barefoot boy playing in the dust felt the loss of someone who had carried their neighborhood's name to the highest stages in the world. Eusébio never won the World Cup. He never even reached the final. But he gave the 1966 World Cup its greatest story. Its greatest goals. Its most unforgettable moments. And its most heartbreaking tears. The Black Panther from Mafalala. Born in poverty. Built for greatness. Gone too soon. And the world of football has never stopped missing him. That is it for today's story on The Last Boot. If this video moved you, please give it a big thumbs up. Share this with every football fan you know. Hit subscribe and join the Last Boot family. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video. Until then, keep the passion alive.